What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris, man. We are here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is Thursday, September 2024. NFL is kicking off this week with the Ravens and the Chiefs. Should be a great game. Rematch to the AFC Championship last year. Looking forward to that. My name is Chris Drummond. I am a freelance sports reporter based here in Minnesota, but also I am in sales as well, and also proprietor of this podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder, where we bring individuals on to talk about their why and to why they do what they do and who they are outside of the occupation. Once again, I got a special guest coming on with me today. Her name is Lern Elwell. She's been an on-air radio personality for the past 11 plus years at KSHE 95 in St. Louis, Missouri. We're going to talk to her about her why, get to know her a little bit, and learn about her journey through the industry. So without any further ado, I bring to you the talented, dedicated, and beautiful Lern Elwell.
Hi,
Hello there. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing good, Lauren. Doing good. Or do you want to be called Lern?
Up to you. You can say Lauren or Learn. Learn is what I go by on the air. So,
Okay, got you, got you. Say less. Well, I would definitely do that then. I will call you Lern. I just want to make sure. Thank you for coming on my podcast. Work hard, play harder. How's your week been going?
it's been great. It's been busy.
Absolutely, I can imagine. Obviously, sports is starting to start back up, which is a beautiful thing. I don't know if you're in the sports or do you do music, but we'll get to that shortly for sure. I want to reiterate to you why I wanted to have you on. So I love radio. I love talking to radio personalities. I was somewhat of a radio personality in college. My genre was sports, but we also did entertainment stuff and news at times.
Mm-hmm.
I love talking about all genres and stuff. I'm a sports reporter now, based
Nice.
out of Minnesota. Based out of Minnesota here. Thank you very much. And obviously, I love talking to people who are in communicative type of roles like yourself. You've been in this role for quite some time. I think it's 11 plus years at KSHE 95 there in St. Louis, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
But you've been a part of radio stations before that as well. I've been being a program director as well. So I wanted to reach out to you to kind of hear your story, hear about who you are outside of radio, but also learn about how you got into it. And I have like a series full of questions here, doing a little bit of my research. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, yeah, actually, I was interested. So I looked into you as well, and I noticed that you interview all women in media. Why is that?
So for me, I like to interview women. I do. I interview men too, but I interview way more women for sure.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like to do that is because I don't feel sometimes that they get the credit that they deserve as far as the attention.
Interesting.
Some do, but a lot of them don't, especially in my field of journalism. There's still talk of lack of discrepancy when it comes to pay. There's still talk of lack of discrepancy with opportunities. Also, diversity and inclusion. I
Mm.
don't see a lot of women sometimes that look like me in a lot of places. And that's not just African American women, but women of ethnicity and some Caucasian women. I just don't think they get the same kind of opportunities as our male counterparts do. And I feel like their stories, not just men's stories, but women's stories should be told as well.
I love that. That was the answer I was hoping for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No
Cool.
question. Yeah. My first question that I always ask my guest on here that I have is, what is your why? What is your why you do what you do? Did you have any role models growing up? Did you have any inspirations growing up? But what made you want to pursue a career in broadcast journalism on the radio?
It was really storytelling. I think I've always had an interest in people before I mean, I was always interested in journalism. I was like a journalism nerd in school, like high school. And then I aspired to be like a print journalist. And that industry was slowly declining as I got out of high school. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go into like psychology, some forensics, and really study people because ethnography has always been important to me. I love learning about people and I'm very curious and I everybody has a story, right? So
Yes,
part
absolutely.
of part of the importance of journalism, as you would know, is telling the story, telling people's story because what makes journalism so special is not everybody has the confidence or the means or the platform or the audacity to share. And
Sure.
it's up to us in the journalistic fields to pull the story out of people, whether it's in sports or music or, something as simple as community radio, just focusing on society. And that, to me, I've never been afraid of approaching people and a microphone, and I don't embarrass easily. I know I'm human, and I think
Sure.
at the core of what at my why, I feel like, is because I love people and I want to know their story. And I think it's important to share as much with people and connect us as ever, especially these days.
Absolutely. That's a great why. And it's very similar to my why, is that I think there's not one person or individual on the planet, in my mind, that you can't connect with something with someone. There's one thing that you can always have in common with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, depending on how you bounce that off as far as a conversation goes, it may not be as many as others. They're going to differentiate, but I just feel you could talk to everybody and at least agree on something. And then you can have a conversation from there. And I love that. I love the conversation piece. I love being able to story tell because, like you said, everybody has a story and everybody's different.
Yep.
Backgrounds are different. So I love that why. You went to Southwestern Illinois college, community college first, and then you finished up, I believe, at Illinois State University.
That's right.
Talk to me about, were there any other schools that could have persuaded you from going to Illinois State University?
I applied to many. So I went to community college first because I was a terrible student in high school. I just didn't apply
Yep.
myself. And so I needed some extra time to figure out how I was going to make myself into something. And I was still narrowing that down in community college. And applied at Northern Illinois University. I went up there and looked at that campus. And honestly, it just didn't appeal to me. It just didn't stick out. And on my way back home, I stopped at Illinois State, which I had also gotten accepted to. And it was like the clouds parted, the sun was shining, and I had met my match. And so walking into their campus ran radio station, I mean, it was all student run. I fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this is like where I exist. These are my people. I loved the diversity. We had a hip hop station and a rock station.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like I was really seeing a part of myself that I'd never seen before in their radio station, WZND. And so I decided right then, I was like, I feel at home in this campus, and it made me want to apply myself. And I found what I wanted to do. And it really was as easy as that.
I love that. I do. Now, did you try several different things in college before you was like set on, okay, radio is the route I wanted to go? Or did you always know that radio was my route?
I knew that journalism was a big interest. And then I did dabble in psychology at community college, just a little bit. And I really enjoyed that as well. And I realized I could still have the psychology part of my job in radio, but I couldn't really have a radio job in psychology. I mean, now I could, if, podcasts exist and whatnot. This was like way a long time ago. And
Sure.
so, I think I made the right choice. I know that radio is kind of a dwindling industry, but in psychology, obviously, has never been needed more than it is these days. But I feel like I did find my match in the industry of communications. And so, yeah, I really didn't have a lot of choice. I knew I wanted to work with people, and
Yep.
I've always loved music. I knew, I'm not a sports person at all, so you have to excuse that, but I'm a huge music nerd, and I am a playful person that is interested in talking to people, whether they are a famous musician that's been around for 50 years or an up and coming band that's from St. Louis, or, or just my fellow show castmates. So I felt like, yeah, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
No, that's pretty awesome. On here with Lern, aka Lauren Elwell of KSHE 95, out in St. Louis, Missouri, on the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. I got some favorite questions here.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, and based upon these questions, you just give me the 411 off the rip and let me know what it is, okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Favorite meal you like to cook?
Favorite meal I like to cook. Okay. let's see. Ooh, it's probably I'm not eating chicken this year because I take a year off from foods just to kind of clean my system out. But I love making these apricot chipotle wings on the grill.
Wow. I don't
It's
think I've
so good.
ever heard of that.
Oh,
Okay.
Chris, you have to do it. You have to get some chipotle peppers in the can from like the Mexican aisle of your local grocer. Take a couple of those out in a saucepan and a jar of apricot preserves, like jelly but thicker, and then get that kind of going on a stovetop. Mix that together. It's going to be hot.
Mm.
Then grill the wings, naked wings, and then once they're cooked fully, you douse them in the jelly mixture, throw them back on the grill, and let them
Okay.
salt. Oh, it is the most delicious thing ever. I miss it so much.
Oh, okay. So you kind of let the sauce glaze into it and saute into it a little bit, is what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yep.
Okay. Got you. Got you. Okay. We might have to talk offline on that one, Lauren. I'm with you on that. Okay. Favorite concert you've ever attended? I know this one might be hard for you being such a music buff.
It is hard. I've seen Jeff Lynne's ELO at Madison Square Garden, and that was one of my top favorite concerts of all time. I've also loved seeing A Perfect Circle a few years ago because Maynard James Keenan, the lead singer of A Perfect Circle and Tool, he just has the most beautiful voice. And the Foo Fighters as well. My husband and I, we love going to see the Foo Fighters when they're touring, and they just have a sentimental value to us. So those are my top three.
Well, definitely shout out to your husband because he got some good taste. The
Yeah.
Fighters for sure. Dave Grohl, who doesn't like him as a
Who
lead?
doesn't like it? I agree.
Come on now, he's definitely one of the best. Favorite vacation spot you've ever traveled to?
Yes, Santa Barbara, California. That was where we honeymooned, and it's just beautiful. Like Oprah lives there, all these rich Hollywood elites that I love and wish I could be running with. I just loved it. It was a perfect you fly into Los Angeles, you drive up the 101, and there's
Yep.
no cooler drive than that. And you get to Santa Barbara, and it's just an easygoing wine town. It's so great.
No question. Now you're talking about my hometown state there, so you definitely don't have to sweet talk me on that one. That's for sure. I grew up
Where
in San Diego.
Santa Monica?
No, San Diego.
Oh my God, I've always wanted to go to San Diego. I've never been.
Yes, it's a very, very beautiful state. Obviously, super expensive there, but my cousins still live in the LA area. So I typically try to go visit them at least once a year for sure. You talk about good wine. I love a good Cabernet. That's just me.
Yes.
I'm definitely a huge Cabernet person, but in the summertime, I'll dabble in some white wine as well, but only in the
Right
summer.
on. Right on,
I,
Chris.
absolutely. Okay. Now, I know you told me you wasn't a sports person, but I am a sports person, so I got to ask you this sports question. Favorite sport that you like to watch on TV? Favorite sport you like to attend in person? Can be the same sport.
Okay. Well, my husband's a Chiefs fan, so I like watching him, especially these last few years. I mean, we've gone to like the AFC Championship or whatever it's called, and we've we've I've watched him almost go to the Super Bowl. I've watched him go to the Super Bowl. It's fun to live vicariously through his joy, and he's been a Chiefs fan for life. So I guess the NFL is fun to watch. And yeah, like I like going to see those games live. We go to Arrowhead, once every other year or so, and it's just fun. But I love it for him. I don't care. I'm there for the food and the beer and hoping that they win for him.
You would be my kind of friend to hang out with, girl. That is for sure. Absolutely. No question about that. And yeah, Chiefs, obviously they're starting tonight. So I'm sure that your household, as one of your TVs in your household is going to have the Chiefs games on because it is starting tonight for sure.
Yes.
Okay. That's amazing. Last of the favorites. Favorite restaurant that you like to eat at. Now, this one is important because I do plan on being out in St. Louis at some point.
Oh, nice. Well, if you come to St. Louis, I'm trying to think of a restaurant that you'd want to go to. Like my favorite restaurant in St. Louis is this little place called the Tavern. It's kind of an upscale place, but it's just one off. It's not like it's not a chain or anything. It's local. They have really
Okay.
great food. Yeah, the Tavern's probably my one-stop place.
Do you have any good breakfast spots there? Because I'm huge into breakfast too.
Yeah, there's also a place called the Shack, which is not it's actually nearby the Tavern. I enjoy the Shack, and Oh gosh, I'm probably forgetting like a die-hard amazing St. Louis breakfast. Oh, you know what? We have a great place called Strange Donuts that makes the best donuts. So I would give them a shout out.
You already won my heart. You said donuts. I don't care if they strange or weird. I don't care what they are, but that's cool. I'm with it.
All right,
Donuts is for me for sure.
me too.
Okay, awesome. Now let's talk about your day to day. I know you are a co-host of the Rizzuto Show, but
Hmm.
you also do middays as well.
Hmm.
Talk to me about your day to day operations as an on-air personality. As opposed, I know it's different every single day, but maybe one day you don't have guests, one day you do have guests. How's the preparation for the shows different?
Well, they're very different, Chris. So the Rizzuto show is an all talk based format. So it's myself and then Rizzuto, who's the main guy of the show, and then three other guys, Rafe, Moon, and King Scott. So the five of us comprise the show. And Riz gets there pretty early, he gets there at like 3 in the morning. And
Wow.
then he sets the tone daily. So he puts together a packet that's like 50 pages thick of things that he found interesting that he hopes that we get into. And then I get in and I create our crap on celebrities, which essentially is just headlines for music, movies, TV, and miscellaneous. And the guys also bring their own. Rafe is a comedian, and Moon is in a touring rock band, and then King Scott is just this fantastic human being. He's like Mr. Rogers. So we have a really eclectic, strange little show that just somehow I think works. And we and essentially it's just us BSing. We start the show commercial free for an hour, and we have some guideposts of where Riz would maybe want the show to go. But
Hmm.
sometimes we go off of those guideposts and it's very organic and we can get into our personal lives and whatnot. So that show is very free form and it's all on us. There's no music that we play. So that's from 6 to 10. And then during the commercial breaks of that show and the night before, I am prepping my midday show for Keishi. And essentially it's a music-based program where I open the mic like 3 times an hour, under 60 seconds, say what's up with music news or community event or what's up with the station. It's
Okay.
very music focused, easy as can be, the easiest of shows. So and all of my music is pre-programmed through our program director at Keishi. And yeah, it's a very easy thing. So I'm essentially on the air from 6 a.m. until 2, Monday through Friday.
Absolutely. Now, and that's awesome. Now, let's talk about work-life balance and mental health. Right, being in this industry, I've ran into a lot of colleagues. Me being predominantly print journalist, as I am now, and now freelancer as well, going around. I'm seeing a lot of my colleagues
Mm-hmm.
Learn, and they be like, "Oh man, I want to go to a different route. I want to go marketing or PR." But they love communications. They just didn't love it for various reasons. Now you work 6 to 2. You said that you were married as well. Getting up at six in the morning is definitely hard. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
what age you are. It is definitely hard to do. But you get into kind of a rhythm of the shows. What would you say is your work life balance? And what would you say is your mental, like what how is your mental health is what I should say. How is your mental health and work life balance at this point in your life?
Oh man. So I have a very rigid schedule. So
Okay.
I'm in bed by 8:30 every night, like physically in my bed at 8:30. And I take sleep very seriously. Sleep is so important for our body's health. It is time to restore. People want to give you a hard time about how early you go to sleep. It's like, no, that's not important to me. What's important is I get at least 6 hours a night. And
Yeah.
so that means that, throughout the week, I'm picking and choosing if I want to do something. Like if it's really important to me, I will go. If I have a movie or a concert I want to go to, I'll nap before I go. And I'll try to balance out my sleep in a different part of the day.
Okay.
My husband and I, for the most of our marriage and our relationship, he has known this schedule because before I was on the Rizzuto show, I did a morning show on Keishi, and
Hmm.
so I've been doing mornings for the majority of our marriage, and so he's kind of used to it at this point, I would say.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, but it does come with you have to have open communication and you have to be able to be transparent about how you're feeling, especially me whenever I get off the air. I have a couple of hours to myself because often everybody I know is still working. And so that was really hard when I went back to mornings with the Rizzuto show. I was really lonely. And my mental health in 2023 took a good nosedive. But thankfully, I have health insurance and I'm no dummy. I have a therapist. I called her up. I got back on the books with her,
Hmm.
and I've been in therapy for a long time, on and off, depending on the events in my life and how my
Sure.
mental state is. And I'm a huge advocate for that. I don't think there's any shame in having a therapist, getting yourself medicated, or, finding holistic ways to put yourself back into a place of comfort.
Yeah.
And I feel really good now. I feel like I definitely in 2024 got a hold of what my issues were. It's about boundaries, it's thought pattern work, self-worth work, because as you know, in this business, when you're a public figure, that means that the public will figure you out and they will tell you exactly what they think. They will dump all over you and take their
Sure.
insecurities out on others. And it's like, some of the things that I have people complain about, some of the things are valid. Some people are like, "Hey, I just hate the sound of your voice." Well, I can't really do anything about that. And
Sure.
that's a valid thing to say. Like, some people are just not going to like the sound of your voice. But others will go a step deeper and try to psychologically hurt people on platforms. And
Sure.
it's so gross and sickening. And it's a mental health crisis that we have in the United States of people taking out their crap on others that they don't know. And it's undeserving. And I feel bad for people that have to put up with that and then don't get the help that they deserve. So I take that very seriously. I have good days, I have bad days, but
Sure.
at the very baseline of my day, I know that I'm a good person. I work really hard and I'm not perfect. And that's all you can really do.
Absolutely. And that's a really terrific answer. It's worth asking the question because again, when I do these podcasts, it's an A side, there's a B side, right? The A side is what you just talked about, doing the Rizzuto show, interviewing people. You have your great co-host on there. Y'all shooting the you know what, but you're just having a good time. You're laughing, but you're getting through the day. But people don't really see the B side of things when you're talking about your schedule and how important it is to get the sleep, how important it is to have that sleep and be able to function properly and not really malnutrition your body, but also not really focus on the trolls or the haters or the negative comments that you
For
also
sure.
see, right? So, but that's a great segue to this next question is that we're talking about that, but what advice would you give somebody, Learn, if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, I want to be an on-air personality too," right? It doesn't have to be like a little girl, it can be a little boy, it could be an individual. What kind of advice would you want to give them if they wanted to do the same thing that you were doing?
Well, I would ask kind of the first question you asked me, what is your why?
Sure.
Why do you want to do it? I do talk to schools. I go and speak to different high schools and classrooms and whatnot, and people ask me questions. And oftentimes, what I see, and especially young people coming up in the social media age, is a lot of people want to get famous for being an influence.
Sure.
What is your influence going to be? Why do you want to influence people? Are you going to use that platform for good? Or are you doing it just selfishly? You want to get famous and get rich and you want everybody to adore you? What
Hmm.
exactly is it? And so I would start there. And let's say it is somebody who's just like, I want to be a celebrity. I think everybody has a little bit of that vanity in media. Like, oh, yes, on some level, people are going to know me. And if you have any trauma or insecurity in your life at all, that fame fills a void that maybe you didn't have in love in your previous years.
Right.
But you have to be really careful about that because what's crazy is if you have a void that you're trying to fill with your career, no matter what it is, you can get too obsessed with it and it can be your ruin. It can really take, because you can get fired, you can get you can get fired, let go, demoted, kicked out. And then what are you going to do? So I would
Right.
say first you need to know yourself and you need to love yourself first without any titles. And you need to know why you feel that you would be a great impact or influence on the public. And then make that your reason every day why you get up and why you care and what your focus is. And then I think those are the most successful people in the history of anything. Whenever you are leading with your heart and you go, okay, I know exactly who I am, but even if all of this ended tomorrow, I'm still
Right.
who I am. And I think that is the most important thing I would say to people. And then I would also, especially for radio, have a realistic approach and also have a plan B, because just like print media, radio media has been hit with so many different obstacles over the years.
Oh,
And
you ain't never lied. Absolutely.
right. So it's like, and I'm no dummy. Like even though I've worked, I essentially started at Keishi in 2008, and I've been um, conjunct to Keishi for 16 years now. Like I've been very lucky. Like that never happens in radio where you stay almost 20 years somewhere. I know how real it is that the industry is having its hardships. And one day they may pull the rug out from underneath me, no matter how hard I'm working. And
Right.
again, at the end of the day, you just have to know yourself and be able to pick yourself up and just keep moving. And so I have that in the back of my head at all times. Like, if I got fired tomorrow, what are my gifts? What can I bring anywhere with me? And I know what they are. And I would continue, because when you have it in you, when you have that like pulling to succeed and to like take care of your family and to have the life that you want to live, you literally will get through anything.
Right. No, I totally understand that. And that's once again, a great answer. Um, and I love your transparency talking about therapy as well, to go back to that, because many people don't like to talk about that. They think that admitting that they go see somebody or a specialist to talk to is
Right.
admitting, something that is kind of soft, or, the perception, right? But
Right.
a lot of people that I've talked to on my platform here have admitted that they do seek out therapy, and you do seek out professional help, because your loved ones are going to tell you things that might not be as real. Sometimes they don't want to have those hard conversations that you need to have.
Oh yeah,
Um,
vulnerability is hard. It's hard
it
for
is.
everyone, and
It
that's
is.
okay. But that's something that I've been really working on specifically this year, is like emotional intimacy and knowing my vulnerability and having boundaries with it. And because man, I don't know what the opposite of it might just be being too vulnerable and like letting out too much. One of my things that I needed to help with was setting boundaries and not giving all of my light away, because
Yeah,
I was constantly doing that. And so I've gotten a lot better this year at saving some for myself and like really taking care of myself too, along with everyone else in the world.
absolutely. And I would say I'm probably the opposite of that, because with the vulnerability part. The vulnerability part, I think, is something that I've always been kind of conscious of. I just think whatever's the opposite of that is that sometimes I could be too forward.
Mm,
I'm not sure what the opposite word for that is, but sometimes I can be too forward and too blunt, and I I'm still struggling with that balance part, because I'm naturally a upfront type of guy. I'd rather be upfront and nice to you, always polite. That's how I was raised. That's how most of us was raised. But I'm also to the point where if you're not seeing the point, I got to bring it to you a different way for you to see it. So that's kind of been my mentality as well. So I'm still balancing with that. The Lord is still working on me. So uh, we'll see how that goes in future days. But I love what you said about the vulnerability therapy and just being able to find yourself, find your niche within the radio period. This is a bonus question, because now I'm talking to you, and I kind of this kind of came up to my mind. Have you ever thought about going in front of the camera? Because you do have a face that the camera would like very much. I do know that.
yeah, so we stream on YouTube daily, which is something I'm really getting used to. I got into radio to not be seen, but to be heard. And I
Sure.
found out through social media that, yeah, I definitely could do TV. And, yes, I've done plenty of video work. And it's okay. I wear my truth on my face. And so I have a
Oh,
hard
okay.
time having a poker face. And I think that is
Okay.
both comedic sometimes, but also I think that like I could never do television. Like if somebody was like, hey, do you want to do television news, at like 10 o'clock? I think I would get fired almost like in week one, because I wouldn't be able to hold back my face. So yes, that's very kind of you. I don't know if I'll ever do a stint in TV unless it can be completely unedited and I'm allowed to be 100% authentic.
Absolutely. And listen, I don't have a lot of radio personalities on, but I do have I've had a few, and I've asked him or her like, hey, have you ever thought about going in front of the TV? Like, I love asking that question because most of them say, well, I'd rather just be behind the scenes, let them hear my voice. But there has been a couple that says, yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind doing that. So I just love asking that question for
Yeah, it's
sure.
great.
So this next one is going to be an interactive game.
Okay.
Okay, so it's called This or That. So basically, what it is, I'm throwing two things at you, and you get to choose this or that. Are you with me?
Sure.
All right, here we go. First question that I have is KFC or Popeyes. I know you're not eating chicken, but I'm sure you ate at both places before.
Of course. It's KFC all the way because of those mashed potatoes.
Wow. Okay, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I love the mashed potatoes. I'm the mac and cheese guy from KFC. I love their mac and cheese.
Nice.
Pretty good. Okay. Next question. Chicken wing flavors, barbecue or lemon pepper?
Barbecue.
Okay. Do you like your wings wet or dry?
Um, Definitely like a wet wing because yeah, the saucier the better.
Oh, absolutely. And do you like it bone in or boneless?
Um, yeah, chicken. Eating chicken off the bone is better. I feel like. I mean, obviously the convenience of boneless. Yeah, I understand it, but yeah, I like a bone-in chicken for sure.
Okay, so you like to get a little messy, is what you're saying.
I don't mind to look like I've just gone through Nam after I'm done with a big plate of chicken. Yeah, let's go.
I love that. I love it. That's talking with confidence right there. I love that, baby. That's what's up. Okay. These next four have to do with music concerts. This is in your wheelhouse. Music
Okay.
concerts that you rather attend. Okay, so here we go. Which concert would you rather go to? Would you rather go see Kiss or would you rather go see Journey?
Kiss.
Wow. Okay. All right. All
Mainly
right.
because, I mean, don't get me wrong, Journey's fine, but they've had so much drama lately, and Steve Perry is no longer singing. So at least Kiss, it's Gene and it's Paul, and I've seen both bands, and Kiss is more fun in person.
Okay. Who would you rather see in person? Would you rather see the Eagles or Aerosmith?
Aerosmith, oh, my beloved Aerosmith. I love them so much.
They are one of my definitely top bands. I love them. They have so many hits that I love. So I'm a huge Dreamweaver guy. So that's one of my
Nice.
favorites for sure.
Dreamweaver, you mean Dream On, not
Dream On.
Dreamweaver.
Sorry, did I say Dreamweaver? I meant
You
Dream On.
did.
Dream On.
Dreamweaver is Gary Wright, which is a whole nother band altogether.
That is Dream On. That's right. Absolutely. And then Walk This Way. Obviously, the collab
Obviously.
that they did with Run DMC. That was pretty good too.
Yeah. Where that
Um,
was the most influential moment of cross-sectional, I mean, hip hop and rock. I mean, that was the moment of, I
yeah.
mean, what an epic experience that was for breaking racial boundaries, breaking genre bending. I loved the whole part. And I love that like both bands, came together and said, we want to do this. And they had no idea what a huge influence that music video and that remix would actually be. Incredible.
Absolutely, no question. All right. This next one here is probably going to be a little difficult, but which one would you rather see in concert? Whitney Houston or Jan Jackson?
Oh, I mean, Whitney, obviously. I love Janet, but I feel like Whitney, she's one of the greatest of all time, that voice. And I loved The Bodyguard when I was a kid, and I wanted to be her. I remember watching that movie, and that was like my introduction to her in the 90s. And I just thought, who is this beautiful, strong, incredibly talented woman? And yeah, it's Whitney all the way.
I definitely, I somewhat remember that because I was a little kid when that came out for sure. The
How old are
Bodyguard.
you, Chris?
I will be 38 next
Okay, so
year.
you're just a year younger than I. Yeah, we're all the
Okay,
same age.
okay. I'm about to say, oh, all right. I didn't know for sure. I knew I was young when The Bodyguard came out for sure. But The Preacher's Wife, I knew. I knew The Preacher's
Yeah.
Wife, Whitney Houston for sure. My last one is Luke Combs or Morgan Wallen.
Ugh, I don't like country music at all. Um,
Ooh,
and I don't
okay.
like Morgan Wallen at all. I feel like he's been in some controversial things, and I just don't appreciate that sort of controversy. Luke Combs, I feel like is a good dude, so I'll go Luke Combs. Even though
Okay.
I could not name a song that he sings, but at least he hasn't been in the headlines for being a jerk.
Okay. And you're right. Morgan Wallen has had some controversial stuff. Let me throw this bonus one at you. This is
Okay.
R&B. Which person would you rather see in concert, Brandy or Monica?
Oh my God, The Boy Is Mine. You're putting the girls head to head. I love them both. However, I was always a Brandy girl whenever I was growing up. So I'm gonna stick with her. She had the best, just she's the cutest. Moesha, right? Was her show. Yes.
Moesha. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going Brandy all the way.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Now, me personally, I would definitely probably choose Brandy as well, but it's like a 51-49 split because I love me some Monica too.
Oh yeah,
I
for sure.
love me. So I love asking radio personalities this question. If you can give me a top four of the interviews that you've had at KC at your time there, what would those top four artists or people be?
Hmm. Let's see. Well, I've gotten to interview Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. He's kind of a controversial guy, but I enjoyed talking with him because he was so raw and he just didn't care, and he was very nice to me.
Sure.
So Roger Waters, and then oh God, Slash. I've gotten to interview him from Guns N'
Oh, Guns
Roses,
N' Roses. Okay.
and then oh God, who else am I thinking of? Oh, well, I've been in the room with Chris Cornell. I wasn't the one interviewing him, but I was in the room whenever he was being
Mm,
interviewed, and that was just so cool to see.
right.
And then I've talked to Ann Wilson of Heart, and she was really incredible to speak with as well. And I guess I'll put my fourth is Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac, the drummer. I just could not believe I was on the phone with him and getting to speak with one of the uh, original members of Fleetwood Mac, and he was in Hawaii when we were on the phone, and it was like during COVID, and and then the band never got to go out again together. And so I would say Mick Fleetwood, Roger Waters, Slash, and Ann Wilson. Pretty cool four.
That is a pretty cool four. And I will preface this by before I get to the next question. So I just learned who Fleetwood Mac is
Oh
about
my
a year
God.
about a year ago. A year ago,
Really?
yeah, because they kept saying the Fleetwood Mac, and I'm like, okay, got to be a guy named Mac. That's
Yeah.
cool. And then I'm like, but I didn't know that Stevie Nicks and Trisha Yearwood was. I didn't know there was a tandem.
Mm,
Um, those two. And I always knew them separately, but I didn't because Stevie Nicks wrote some songs, I believe, with Pink, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
And then Trisha Yearwood, if I'm not mistaken, she's married to Garth Brooks. If
Yeah.
I'm
So,
not mistaken,
but Trisha Yearwood was not in Fleetwood Mac.
she was not. She was not.
No. So Fleetwood Mac was a
Oh,
blues band like in the
yeah.
60s that started. Mick
Okay.
Fleetwood and a man named Peter Green. And then they had all sorts of different members.
Yeah.
Christine McVie was the other female in Fleetwood Mac. And
Okay.
so Mick Fleetwood, that's where the Fleetwood comes from.
Okay.
And Mac comes from McVie because John McVie, Mick Fleetwood, and Peter Green started Fleetwood Mac as a blues band way back in the
Yep.
day.
Yep.
Christine Perfect joined the band, married John McVie, and then it was John McVie, Christine McVie, Mick Fleetwood, and then people like
Ooh.
oh God, I'm gonna mix up. Bob Welch was in the band for a little while, and Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham were
Okay.
from California, and they whenever Fleetwood Mac, the old Fleetwood Mac, was in Sound City in Los Angeles recording. Stevie Nicks was literally one of the cleaners of the studio, and she and Lindsey Buckingham had a band called Buckingham Nicks, and they joined forces with Fleetwood Mac to make it what the most iconic version of Fleetwood Mac was, which is where
Wow.
like
Okay.
Rumors in 70, 75 came out, and like yeah, so the Fleetwood Mac that most people know with Stevie Nicks in it was actually the last version of Fleetwood Mac that came out in the 70s.
I love that. No, you gotta listen. I can listen to you talk about that all day, music stuff. Because I'm a huge music buff, but at the same time, I listen to songs, I listen to music, but I don't really know a lot of history. I know bits and pieces, but I don't
Yeah, that's
know
cool.
a lot about the history. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Um, that's a pretty good list, by the way. I want to ask you this advice. Now, you gave advice on what it would take to be in a position of yours, but what is some advice that someone gave you that you hold on dearly to?
Um, one of my mentors was a woman named Terry, or she is a woman named Terry, and she was a teacher of mine for a long time, and we became friends when I got older. And she told me, when you start to get cynical, get out. And I keep that in my mind with everything I do. If I start to find myself getting cynical about the business or a situation I'm in, I get out of the situation. I do not stick with something where my word isn't impeccable. Like and luckily I've gotten to over the last 16 years I've gotten to change my dynamic on the air. I've switched day parts, and so I haven't really been able to grow too cynical in where I am. But I thought that was a really great piece of advice. If you start to grow cynical, get out. And that goes with relationships, friendships, businesses, any situation you're in.
Absolutely.
If you start to feel that it's not good and you see yourself changing and you don't feel like yourself, it's
Get
time to
out.
change. Get out. Yeah.
I love that. I do. Now, are you a karaoke person?
Oh yeah. I have a band.
You do.
I do. I sing. I'm a lead singer in a classic rock cover band.
Now, what kind of classic rock covers do you cover?
We do Fleetwood Mac. We do what else do we do? We do Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, Aerosmith.
Okay.
We do pretty much essentially all any classic rock, we'll try it. Beatles.
Now, do you guys go all around like St. Louis, or do you guys take it a little bit out of St. Louis as well?
We just stay in St. Louis and like the Metro East in Illinois. And so we
Okay.
play on average at least once a month. And it's myself with two guys that are retired and another guy who works in TV.
Okay. Now are you the lead singer, or are you just playing like bass or something?
No, I'm the lead singer.
Oh, okay. Now listen, when I pull up to the town, now you're gonna have to give me the 411 on that. I'll definitely come out and support. There's no
Okay,
question.
cool.
No question. Yeah, I love seeing live bands, live music, and I might learn something new because a lot of those bands that you just mentioned, I have no idea who they are.
You'll love it.
That's for sure. Two more questions before I get you up out of here. This next one has to do with a bucket list. Now we talked
Okay.
about four that you interviewed. What is a top four that you would like to interview that you haven't
Okay.
interviewed on your show?
I would love to interview Dave Grohl, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith.
Hmm.
I would love to interview Stevie Nicks
Mm.
and uh, who else? Who would be my number four? Oh man. I would love to talk to Grace Slick. She was one of the singers in Jefferson Airplane. And yeah, I feel like that's a good solid that would do it for me. I love them all in different parts of my own life. And so selfishly as a fan of all of them, I would want to just talk to them as a fan. Um, and I think that that would be that I could just quit after that. I think that if I got all four of them as interviews, I could probably just hang my hat and go, I've done it all.
I like that. It's a solid list. That's definitely a solid list for sure. Okay, I did get a bonus question. It just came up in my mind, but I wanted to ask you if you wasn't an on-air personality. I know you've been doing this for the past 16 years, but if you wasn't in radio, on-air personality, what career path do you think you would have chosen or went in the direction of, and why?
I would have been a speech teacher. I would have been, I mean, I still plan on it. I still see myself one day. I don't have kids, but I could see myself loving, to be a teacher of little kids or high schoolers or even college students. I think that teachers are the most important role in society because they are the ground, right? We learn everything from them. We learn
Yeah.
how to be civil. We learn the things that we're supposed to know and keep with us as a society. It's storytelling. I mean, teaching is storytelling. And
Mhm.
so that goes back to my love of that. And I feel like I would be I've been told, and this is the best compliment I've ever received, is I'll speak to students, and then afterwards they'll either raise their hand and ask the question in front of everyone, or they'll come up to me or email me later and they'll say, "How are you so confident? You seem so sure of yourself and like unafraid." And I feel it's a duty of mine to pass that on to people, because I feel like a gift I have is to listen to people, help them tell their stories, and then ignite them to have the confidence in who they are. And so I think all great teachers do that. And I feel I'm made for that as well. And I look forward to that chapter if it ever comes.
I think it will. I mean, I'm pretty confident in that. And the reason why is I think you would do great. I think it's a passion of yours, the way that you speak about it. I think you would have such an impact on kids, and you have a wealth of knowledge of being
Thanks.
in your profession, in your field. I think it'll definitely reach somebody in that crowd, if not
Thanks,
all of them,
Chris.
for sure. I also substitute teach as well. So
Oh,
that's why
you
I'm saying
do? Oh, I think that is so great. Oh, do you love it?
I do. I do. It gives me a chance to still do something that I love to do on the side when I'm not working, doing games and doing sports. But it also allows me to connect with the kids, because that's ultimately what I would love to do. If I wasn't, same question back at me, if I wasn't in sport journalism or doing communication, I would probably be a math teacher or some kind of communicative type of teacher, because I love impacting kids, coach as well in sports. I just love having that impact of positivity towards kids. And that's something that drives me every day. Really, when I go out here and cover these games and I talk to these high schoolers and talk to these kids just about life in general, college in general, they ask me all kind of questions. I just want to give them the real, right? I want to give them my perspective, but I also let them know your perspective, my perspective is going to be different than yours, because it's a different time. I haven't been in high school for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's different. But you're going to enjoy it just like I enjoy it, in a different way. And just be smart about what you do and love what you're going to pursue. I always come back to that. Love what you're going to pursue. Try everything.
Yeah.
And that's something I do. So yeah, substituting, I do it about 1 to 2 days a week. Um, it's sometimes it's half days, sometimes it's full days, whatever they need. But I just love being in that space and teaching those kids from kindergarten all the way to high school. And I'm getting
That's
my
great.
master's currently. I'll have my master's by May of 25. So then I can be able to teach for real, if I wanted to.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I'm so proud that you're going and following that. That's something I wish I could go back to school and pursue. That's great.
Well, listen, hey, there's no time like the present. You never know. 1 year from now, things may look a little bit different, and we might be having a conversation differently. You just never know. But you're rocking it right now in KC 95 out there, and you are doing your thing. And it is a pleasure to talk to you on this platform. As I always do, I ask this last question, and that is anything else that you would like to add before we conclude?
No, I think I gave you all my answers. I think it's you just got to kind of flow with the world and keep storytelling alive and try to make sense of anything you hear. That's what I try to do daily.
Absolutely. Well, listen, again, I want to say thank you very much for coming on to my platform. It's been very interesting hearing your story and how you grew up and where you came and where you are now. If I ever touch down in St. Louis, which I know I will because I have family there,
Oh, cool.
I would definitely have to hit you up. That's for sure.
All right, Chris. Well, hey, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and thank you for wanting women to have more of a platform, and you as a man using yours to really escalate that is pretty cool. So if nobody's ever told you that before, I think that's really neat. And thank you for inviting me on today.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to try to see if I can get maybe a friend of yours, Michelle Smallman. I want to try to talk to her next for sure. So I'm going to try to reach out to her as well.
All right, man. She's a busy chick, so good luck.
Thank you. You take
All
care.
right. All right, Chris. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Bye bye.